Welcome to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
Well, my apologies ahead of time. Last week's vacation is over. They are back.
Well, Frank and I were saying today that it's like Christmas for you right now, having him and I back in the studio, is it not?
Last week was Christmas.
Oh, that's mean. That's mean, Steve.
This is like the New Year's hangover.
You know, we're humans. We're humans with feelings, Steve, and
Yes,
you've hurt our feelings right now.
And Steve, having Paul in the studio is like, maybe Ryan Reynolds visiting us. I mean, that would be the same thing, the stardom that Paul brings to the show.
You know what? Speaking that, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but our good friend Adam Cote, who's also a mortgage broker like Frank is, his son, who's battling NASH, who's battling cancer at 8 years old, had the beauty pleasure of meeting Ryan Reynolds when he was going through treatment in Boston. And Ryan was actually in town yesterday that no one knew about. And Adam, I'm sorry if I'm talking out of turn and saying this, but he actually took Nash out for the day, which was just amazing. You know, he's easily become my favorite celebrity just for doing this. And what a great day for Nash, who's going through a lot of...
And the last thing Ryan Reynolds said was, please don't tell anybody.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Yeah. And, he took him a place where Paul doesn't really know a lot about because he doesn't take his wallet out. The Mint, where all the money's made, that's where they went to visit. So, which was awesome. I mean, what a great place. If you've never been on a tour of the Mint, it's
a lot more fun than the Debit Museum.
I've definitely become a huge fan of Ryan Reynolds after what he's doing for Nash and Adam.
I was
and
to begin with anyway, because even during the pandemic, I mean, he donated to the food banks across the country. So he's always been awesome, but he's just taken it to another level.
Well, and this is personal
for us.
This is one story we know about.
Yeah, but it's personal for us because we know Adam and we love Adam and we love Nash even more. So that's where it's personal. So
we love Angie too.
Yes. Angie's okay too.
Yes.
All right, I take it back. You guys aren't so bad.
See, we are good people.
We're pretty good. Speaking of bad, though, how about that job report?
6.8%.
Unemployment's up. Again, bad things on that front means good things if you're getting a mortgage or if your mortgage is
The good news is you can get a mortgage. So. The bad news is you have no job.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So unemployment went up to 6.8. They were anticipating 6.6. That's why the markets reacted the way they did. They were not expecting, because historically in November, the jobs go way up, and usually most of them are part-time jobs because of the Christmas season and retail, and you've got a lot of students being hired. Yet what's happening this year, and we saw it last year a little bit too, but even worse this year, 15 to 24-year-olds, the unemployment rate for them is in the 16% range. So here we are at 6.8 across the country. But when it comes to 15 to 24-year-olds who typically will get jobs, especially university students who are now on exams and breaks, they'll get jobs at the retail stores helping out during the Christmas rush. But that's not happening very much because out of the 50,000, and listen, 50,000 jobs is still a decent month. You would think, wait a second, 50,000 jobs got created. Why is that a bad thing in November? Because 45,000 of those jobs were public service.
Yeah.
Wow. So you take away the public service, and you created this whole country with all the immigration we've had in the last 2 years, 5,000 jobs in this country.
And there's no excuse for the 15 to 24-year-olds because there's tons of service jobs out there. Tons of service jobs.
Yes and no, but I don't see them as much as we did during the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, now you're not seeing – listen, everywhere we went right after the pandemic ended, help wanted. Have you seen one lately? I haven't seen any lately.
No, and I remember after the pandemic, too, the service was terrible, right? You might have had 3 or 4 waiters serving, hundreds of people. Like, it was just terrible.
Where now you've got, it seems like it's more reasonable back to pre-pandemic days, but they're just not hiring. And there's a lot of people that are getting, so I think what's hurting the 15 to 24-year-olds is that life is so expensive that you've got the 25 to 40-year-olds who are taking on second jobs on the weekends.
Taking up those jobs.
And if I'm an employer, I might want to hire them before I hired a 16 or 17-year-old. So I think that's what's hurting them as well.
So can I say the silver lining or the good news in this is after Trudeau came out and made his announcement with our GST holiday and everyone gets their $250,
well, that's not passed yet. But 250 is not passed.
I know, but there was a really big, I would say, deflation in the market as far as where the interest rates were going to go. We had a lot of people who were so optimistic on the market, and then when that happened, there was lots of talk about rates only coming down a quarter percent instead of 0.5%. And it was the numbers were leaning, in my opinion, towards a quarter point. And you're
right.
saying now that it's probably leaning towards a 0.5 point?
So it went from about 33% when all that stuff came out with Trudeau. All of a sudden it became only a 33% chance for a 50-point cut. Then as the $250 thing may not come to fruition, and went all the way up to 50. And then the job report comes out yesterday. Now we're at about an 87% chance that the Bank of Canada rate cut will be 50 points. So that's how much it swings in a 2-week period. And that's how quickly it could change. So again, if you're in an adjustable or variable rate mortgage, you're going to benefit. We've seen the bond market on the 5-year come down by 0.5 percentage point in the last 2 weeks. Lenders haven't given that back to consumers yet, but expect that to happen this week. I really think that we're going to see some fixed rate drops this week.
By how much?
Probably a quarter point, I would say. But again, if prime rate comes down 0.5 point, we got a quarter point on the fix. We're going in the right direction again. And I think this sets the tone for 2025 in where we're in a recession. And lots of economists have said we're technically in a recession.
Former Bank of Canada governor said we're in a recession.
We are. I mean, it feels like a recession. It just, the numbers don't state it because of the immigration that we've had and the increase in the population. But we are in a recession, and typically in a recession we see interest rates plummet. So I think that again, that's good news for potential home buyers in the spring, maybe in the winter. But I think in the spring is when we're really going to see hopefully fixed rates start with 3s across the board. We'll see bond markets come down, and Trump takes what the 20th of January, I think, is when Donald Trump becomes the president. Donald Trump is known for low interest rates. He gives Jeremy Powell that stink eye if he doesn't drop rates. Now the U.S. is December 18th, so it's a week later. Right now, the markets are pricing in about an 80% chance of a 0.25% cut, and 0% is the next one at 20%. So,
well, we better follow the state's news really, really close, because we're about to become a state in the United States.
Yes.
51st state in the United States. Hey, listen, if that happens, boys, I'm sorry, I'm going down to Hawaii. I'm living down in Hawaii.
Hawaii is a state.
Well, but I could live there.
Yes, you could, but it's
there.
A state.
You go.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? I could go live in Hawaii or California.
I agree.
I love Ottawa, but look outside. I don't like this white stuff.
No.
Yeah.
You don't?
No, I don't like this white stuff.
It's not good for business, right? Now, again, we had a little bit of a snow, and I think, according to you, we're getting some tomorrow. Did I hear that right?
Tonight, tomorrow.
Tonight into tomorrow, 15 centimeters.
Yeah. So, now,
goodbye,
again,
Punta Cana.
Yeah. I think I like white Christmases anyway. I mean,
I do too.
I'm okay with a white Christmas. I think Christmas is meant to be white. But if it keeps away the -20, then let it snow, is what I say.
So now next year, 1.2 million mortgages are coming due. 85% of those are at a point or less. They were negotiated when that's
they're in the ones.
When that's what the rate was.
Yeah, the rate starts at the ones.
These rates have to come down.
Well, if they don't, Canadians will keep their homes. I don't think there's any question. I think a lot of them will likely refinance, reamortize to 30 years to make sure that the payments are fairly similar to where they are right now. So I think that that's likely to happen. And again, if you have 20 years left on your mortgage, you hate to go to 30 because that's not necessarily the direction you want to go in.
It's only on paper, though.
It is, but if
Still
the rates
on
have
paper.
gone up and you need to survive and the cost of everything else is expensive, then you want to continue to be a homeowner, because if you bought a house 5 years ago, as crazy as it was, but I think 2021 and like the second half of 2020 were when the real estate values started to really go up. The first half, we were all on shaky ground. We didn't know what was going to happen in 2020 with the pandemic early on. There's probably no sales. I mean, March, April, May, there were probably no sales whatsoever virtually.
June took off.
Yeah, June and July, once things opened up, we
Yeah.
started to see the takeoff in prices and sales. So, so I think we're going to have the mortgages that come up right up until June are people that got their mortgages that already had mortgages. But the values of their homes from June of 2020 and May of 2020 to 2025 is going to be tremendous. I mean, 50% likely value in homes. So you've got the room to be able to refinance, reamortize, keep your payments similar to where they are now. And just because you take a 30-year amortization doesn't mean you're stuck with the mortgage for 30 years. It means that your payments are going to be based. Now, if you take an adjustable rate mortgage, then your payment will be higher than you're used to now. But if rates come down like we expect in 2025, then at some point you can convert it to a fixed mortgage and maybe get your payments more in line and be able to lower the amortization.
And maybe even get ahead.
And maybe you'll definitely be ahead if you pay off a whole bunch of other high rate debt. I think you'll be ahead anyway. So.
Well, and Frank, you're right with people who've built up a lot of equity in their home too, because we think of those 3 years, we went up 8.4, and then the next 2 years we went up 50%. So we went up almost
insane.
We went
really
up almost
crazy.
60% in 3 years. We dropped 5.5 last year, but we went up 60%. We dropped 5.5. So unless you bought a house in that time frame, in that 5.5 drop, you're in a little bit of trouble, but we're back up again. We're just modestly back up. We're only up 1.2% this year on a whole, which is still up, but that's considered more of a flat year. But if you bought your house in 2018, 19, 20, even 21, you've built up a lot of equity in that home. I know I'm looking to unload one of my properties right now. And I paid just before the pandemic hit. I paid $390 for it.
Which you thought was a little crazy at the time.
At the time, I was like, I can't believe I paid $390. I
remember you saying that.
Yeah. And so I paid $390, and within a year, it was up to almost $500. And now I'm probably going to unload it on the market for about $650. And that was only 4 or 5 years ago. So people have built up tremendous amount of equity. Are their payments going to go up potentially? Yes. I mean, if they're coming off a 1 point something rate, of course their payments are going to go up. But look at the big picture. Look at the bright side. You've built a lot of equity in that home. And unless you're someone who's bought in, Jan, Feb, March, April of 2022, you are in a good position. So no panic there.
Agreed. You know what? You made $250,000, right, based on that calculation. I'm sure the listener's saying, you'd think he'd buy breakfast more often.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
And you can write it off.
And you can even write it off. That's right.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Paul Rushforth is here. Frank Napolitano is here. And so are the numbers for November.
Yes. I do want to put a caveat out there. I mean, as an industry, the real estate industry, we have changed to a new system. Which is going to be, we're embracing it. I mean, there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of positivity. I know as my office, I brought in trainers and we're, well ahead of the curve and we're embracing it and being very positive about it. But saying that, the numbers are very tricky. We're still sort of in the initial phase. We're trying to get all the numbers. So I was trying to do some homework yesterday on how many homes are on the market and what's going on in the market. And it was all over the map. So I'm using these stats from the Ottawa Real Estate Board, which I will hope will be a little bit more accurate than what I was finding yesterday. So not surprisingly, we did have a fairly strong November. Number of sales were up 45.1%, which we're not surprised because we had a really tough end of last year. So having the sales up 45.1% is what I think is pretty normal. Average sale price actually went up 4.6%. So I thought that was a little higher. Now, that's just for the month of November. I thought that was a little higher.
Sorry, is that compared to the previous month or a year ago?
Compared to the previous month, so November over November. But I usually like the year-to-date stats. Early in the year, it's hard to compare the year-to-date because it's so early. But now we're at the end of the year. So usually the end-of-year stats is really where it tells the tale of what's going on in the market. Our number of sales are up 11.8%, which is very good. Some people are saying we're having a really tough year. 11.8% number of sales is drastic. Like, that's quite high. Usually we're not that high. Our average sale price is just teetering along at 1.2%. So we haven't seen a large increase in the average sale price, which is not bad considering our rates have been so high. Market's been somewhat stagnant. Our prices haven't gone down, which is great. Last year was our first year since 94 that our prices went down. And so, to see them up 1.2, stagnant market, not bad. Months of inventory is up to 2.9. So that number I find is a little bit misleading because they say if you're 4 months and under, you're in a seller's market. It does not feel like a seller's market at all.
No, prices will be going up.
Yeah, but the numbers say we're in a seller's market. And I think that's a little bit skewed because there are some areas that are in a seller's market. There's others that are in a balance, and there's others that are in a very, very strong buyer's market. So 2.9 it's a little bit misleading. So I believe that we're in more of a balanced market. probably closer to that buyer's type of market than we have been in the past. And depending on the 11th, if they do go down, the rates go down 0.5%. I do think we're going to have a lot more optimism in the market. I think we're going to start our market earlier. In 2024, we did not have a spring market. It was very delayed, very stagnant. There was not much going on. There was a lot of uncertainty. And I believe we're going to have a much stronger spring market. I did think that we were going to have a strong Q4 for 2024, and I know as the board, it shows a strong Q4. I know as a team, we were just shy of 65 deals last month, which for November is crazy. That's a lot of deals. So we're seeing a really, really strong Q4, and as we see the rates come down, which is most likely what we're seeing in December and in January, I think we're going to have an early Q1 to 2025. I think it's going to start fast and it's going to start furious. Not like 2022, but I think we're going to have a very strong start to 2025.
So the rate announcement is Wednesday. Then
Wednesday.
The next one after that isn't until the 29th of January.
See, he listens. Paul listens. And the one after that, Paul?
That would be in March. March.
12. Alfie.
March
12.
Alfie.
11th.
March
11th, yes.
I get March 12th.
I got March 11th.
Well, who cares? It's March something, but yes. So
it was very well worth interrupting me for whatever reason.
Yes. Let's just say it's an early to mid-March is where we're going to be.
So my question is that after Wednesday, we have to wait a long time until January 29th. So are people going to be sitting on their heels until after the end of January?
There's two every quarter. So if you really want to look at what Bank of Canada announced when they are, there's two a quarter. So, sometimes we get back-to-back months, and other times we'll get like 1 month, and then there's a 6-week usually gap between them.
But there's a month and a half. That's what I'm saying. So are people going to be waiting then until after January?
Well, I don't know that you time. When it comes to mortgages, you don't time it. People say, well, Frank, maybe I'll wait until. But if you're taking an adjustable or variable rate mortgage, the rate will automatically come with you. So if Bank of Canada drops, then you automatically get it. You don't have to wait for it.
Right. What
you want to lock in is the variance itself is what you're looking for. So now the question becomes, so the variance is going to change. So right now you can get, I've seen prime minus 90, prime minus 95. In special occasions, you might get prime minus 1. Is that going to stay the same? Or with rates coming down, is that going to go to prime minus 75 and prime minus 65? It's a great question because if we know the banks, and we saw the banks did all the reporting, and most of them did very, very well again this quarter, very profitable. I mean, RBC, I think I saw was $4 billion for the quarter.
I know.
In net profit, $4 billion. So they're doing very well. They like their spreads, and they have certain spreads that they're very comfortable with. So as much as it's been fairly competitive and they've taken a little bit of a hit, the expectation is that they're going to get back to normal business and be able to increase those spreads. So on the variance part, what happens is if they're making good spread on the 5-year fixed and on the 3-year, then they want to be able to do the same thing if they see the trending start going to adjustable and variables. So if they want to make that same spread, are they going to lower the variance based on the fact that they want that spread? That's going to be the thing to wait for, because I've always said you can take a little bit of hit on, if I'm a bank, I'll take a little bit of a hit on a variable adjustable, knowing that it pretty well locks the client into that institution for 5 years. And when you're ready to convert, you really have the upper hand then as an institution at that point, because, and that's why I say to clients, it's okay to take it with your certain bank. Just make sure that at the time that you're ready to convert it to a fix, that they're going to be just as competitive, because when I worked at the bank would say if somebody's converting from a variable to a fixed, you don't have to give them our best rate because they're stuck with us. Otherwise, they're going to pay a penalty. So you want to make sure that you've got that conversation. Now, they'll tell you, I had a client this week that said, Frank, you know what, thanks very much, but my bank just offered me prime minus 1.1, and they've also told me that I get to convert it to a fixed for free. And I wrote them and I said, convert it for a fix for free. Why? I didn't think they charged to convert. So they're selling you something that's really is already there. So that's what you got to be careful with. So if they're telling you that, to what degree are they going to go when you're ready to convert it to a fixed? They're going to tell you that this is the best we can do based on the fact, but yet if you were a new customer, we'd give you 4.19, but because you're only converting, you're getting 4.39. That's the risk sometimes of being with a major bank.
So, Steve, when you asked what you think is going to happen with the rates before Frank rambled on, I will tell you though. Listen, I don't claim to be the smartest guy or the best looking guy, but when it comes
in this room,
but when it comes to,
either do we.
But you know what? When it comes to the market, there's very few that know the market like I know the market. And I can tell you right now that we usually look at a spring market and people are like, I'm going to hit in the spring, in the March, in the April, maybe in the May timeframe. You've missed the boat. I think what's going to happen this year is as we see this half-point drop, hopefully in December, knowing that we're getting at least potentially a quarter in January, most likely a half in January, I think our market's going to start earlier. And I think if you follow what I'm doing, I am listing my properties ASAP. I have properties that I'm hitting on the market that I'm getting my contractors to like speed. I got to get on by like the 10th of January.
Because you think the value of property is going up?
I no. What I'm thinking is I think the market's going to be feverish. I'm not saying that I do believe the values are going to go up. They may not go up drastically.
But listings are going
But
up.
I think listings are going up. So I think you're going to have, you got some delayed listings that haven't sold right now that are going to hit the market in early January again. They're going to take off for Christmas and come on the market in January. And I think people still have the philosophy of hitting the market in March, April, May. Can you believe the glut that's going to hit the market in those months? I think you need to hit earlier. So my goal is the 10th to the 15th of January. I'm on the market. That's when the spring market's going to start to take off. Get on before people start getting on the market. And that's where this year our spring market's going to start earlier than it ever has.
You're right. I think after that you're going to have missed it because after Wednesday, if it goes down 50 basis points, new people are going to start looking with anticipation.
100%.
And they're not closing until the rates come down yet again after that.
We have lots of buyers right now that have been sitting in the woodwork that believe we're getting a half-point drop on Wednesday that are starting to look now.
Yeah.
And we're talking Christmas. A lot of people don't look at Christmas. We have a lot of buyers right now that are looking at Christmas. So we're telling some people in certain areas, no, get on now. We're like, but it's Christmas. Get on now. Other areas, we're saying, you know what? Maybe wait till early January to hit the market, mainly because you have a bit of a glut. Things are going to come off the market. And a lot of people are thinking, okay, I'll come back on the market in maybe Feb, March, April, May. Get on ASAP, get on that market because I think we're going to have a very, very strong start to the market, stronger than we've seen in a long time, I believe.
And if you're not getting on right now, get ready to pull the plug early.
Early, absolutely.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We will be right back. Welcome back to the phones we go. Rob has been waiting for a while. Morning, Rob.
Good morning.
Morning.
I was wondering, isn't it better to worry about paying your mortgage off than worrying about paying all your bills with your equity? Like, so many people pay their bills with their equity, and they get choked because when you use your equity, that's basically making your mortgage bigger. If you do have equity in your house, like if you own your house, I think it's smarter if you were to make it somehow. Like in my township, they're allowing you to build they call it a granny suite, but basically it's a little rental property that you can put on your own property, and that brings up the value of your house a lot better, I think, than pulling equity to.
Depends what you owe and how much interest you're paying on it, though.
So much. Like you buy a fixer-upper in North Grenville, you're looking $400,000 or $500,000. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but the way you started your question, like, people have equity in their homes, but if they're carrying credit card debt, car loans at 6, 7, 8, 9, 20%, why not use your equity in your home to pay those bills down and then take the payment you're applying towards those bills and apply towards your mortgage to pay your mortgage off quicker and not have the burden of all those debts? So that's where it makes sense to use your equity.
Like me and my wife, when we first bought our home, it's their means. If you can't afford the payment on the vehicle, don't buy it. Buy a used one.
Yeah, but not everybody thinks that way. That's the problem. Corporations have made billions and billions of dollars from training people. Listen to the car commercials when you get a chance. It's only $89 a week because they pry on people that can't do the math and say, wait a second, that's $500 a month that I can't afford. But $89 I can afford. That's what they work with. So people get caught up in that, and then not. You sound like you know your math and you know your how to get around it, but not everybody does.
Well, one thing, me and my wife my wife's retired now, and I'm a construction guy, so I don't want to retire. But I'm thinking myself for future, because you got to think like, okay, you might have enough now to last 20 years, but then after that, you need something to sell to keep your lifestyle. So I was talking to my wife. I says, well, in our township, they're allowing you to build half of whatever the square footage of your house is. And they're giving, I believe it's $25,000 towards it. And I said, if you don't take the money from them and just sort of build that, and it brings the value of your house, say, from 700 or 800 up to 1.2.
No. I'll cut you off right there, Rob. That's not happening. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about tiny houses, and there was a push by the city and many municipalities to get tiny houses built because obviously we have a housing crisis. And some municipalities, some areas, it sounds like you're in the country, you might have some land. They are a little bit more sought after in those areas with more land. But it's not going to increase your house from 800 to 1.1, 1.2. 100% it's not going to do that.
Not now, but in 10 years from now.
Nah, I don't think so.
But that would be natural, regardless of whether you did that tiny house or not. The chances are that if you get a 3 to 5% increase every year, 10 years from now, you got a 50% increase.
But that's the way a lot of people bought houses in the 60s. They had little, like they rented rooms and stuff like that to compensate for the mortgage with higher mortgage.
Yeah, that's different,
so I think,
right?
the start of your question, and Frank, and I hate to say this, but answered it perfectly, is there's times you have to pay your bills. And sometimes you have to take a little bit of money out of your house to pay those bills, and if you keep that house for years, you're building that equity anyways.
The difference is you could lose your house if
you can't afford to pay your bills and your credit goes goes really, really low, you're not going to have that house. So I don't think it's a bad idea sometimes to refinance your house, to pay some of your larger bills, especially your credit card bills that are 19, 20, 22%. So to pay those off. And then, to answer your question about the tiny home, I'm not, kiboshing tiny homes because I think that they're great.
Do they add value?
Well, in certain areas, they might add value. In certain areas, do they add value? I don't know. Do you want a tiny home in your backyard, Steve? I personally don't. Some people do.
Your neighbors don't want a tiny
the neighbors
home in
don't.
your
So I mean, if you're buying a house with a tiny home, most times they are going to build some value. But are they building $300,000-$500,000 value? Absolutely not.
But are they building compared to what you pay to put them in?
No. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Some areas, yes. Some areas, no. But you're going to spend, upwards of $100,000 or $150,000, $200,000 to put a tiny home.
If you're spending $150,000 or $200,000,
to put a tiny
is the value going up 3 or 4?
No.
So you want cash flow then.
Yeah, you're getting cash flow, which is great, which will help you pay your bills. It's like having an accessory apartment or a duplex, it's one of those. It's helping you pay your bills, but it's not necessarily increasing your price, the price of your home as big as you think it's going to do. It could pay for itself, but you're going to get that cash flow. But it's definitely not adding $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to your home. Definitely not.
No, the way I look at it is, if I can do most of the work myself.
Yeah.
And if you're talking materials, so that's different. And that there alone would be smarter than taking $300,000 and buying, say, a condo or something and carrying a $300,000 mortgage.
Listen, it'll work for you because you're in the construction field, so you're right. I mean, you can buy the materials, you can do the work at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost anyone else. So from your perspective, I think it's a much different scenario than somebody else, the average person who has to hire somebody to build it, because you know that the labor's probably bigger cost than the materials themselves. So if you get to get rid of the labor cost, well, then it makes sense for you, because something that would cost somebody $300,000 might only cost you $150,000. And then your value goes up $300,000. Brilliant. You should be doing more of them.
And the beauty is the city is really pushing towards that. I mean, I was selling tiny homes for a while, and the city was very, very. I mean, I used to bring them in on seminars because they were pushing it. And I think it didn't take off like we thought it was going to take off. But there are some people that have built tiny homes, and the city's worked with them, and it's worked out great. There's
Better if you have a bit of land, though, right?
You need some land. I mean, there's some people that we sold tiny homes to that were looking to do them in like, a postage stamp land, and it was like, your neighbors are going to hate you, by the way. Yeah. And there's others that have the land.
Bring the value of the neighborhood down.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you have the land, you got a couple acres, 3, 4, 5 acres, and you want to throw up a tiny home to generate some income, or what most people were using them for was mom or dad, an adult, son or daughter. So there was a use for them for sure. And if you need the extra income, there's nothing better than doing that. I mean, most people are finishing a basement and putting separate entrances and things like that. But if you were thinking of doing a coach home or a tiny home and making money off that, then that's great. It's a great way to pay some of your bills for sure.
The only people that can do it are people like you and all of Frank's friends.
Yes.
No, if you're in the industry, what you do, again, I mean, the labor is the biggest cost. If you can avoid the labor cost and do it, and your municipality is giving you $25,000 to do it, what are you waiting for? Like, you should be doing it. No question about
absolutely.
it. Makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, thanks.
Getting back to the original question, though, get rid of your high interest debt as fast as you can. Right?
100%. I mean, the amount of people that are out there paying 20, 25, 29% on credit cards and have $30,000, $40,000 worth of line of credit and credit card debt, and at the same time they have a house that's worth $700 and they owe $200 on it, and they say, "Yeah, my goal is to pay it off as soon as I can." But you're being thrown away from paying it off quickly by having that other debt.
You would pay it off quicker, would you not?
You would pay it off quicker if you took that debt, added it to the mortgage, and then took the payments you were making on that debt and applying that to your mortgage payment. You would pay it off way quicker. But the problem is, the reason they have that debt is because their cash flow is off. So that's the reason they're carrying the debt, because they're not making as much. So they're trying to aggressively pay down their mortgage, but they're accruing debt on the other side, which doesn't make any sense. So pick a payment that's going to keep you comfortable and make sure that you don't accrue that credit card debt or line of credit debt moving forward. Set the payment that way and then tackle your mortgage that way.
And then as interest rates come down, you can be even further ahead.
Of course, if you take an adjustable rate mortgage. If you lock in now for 5 years, well, now you got to wait out the 5 years, because the penalty, if interest rates come down as much as we think they will, the penalty to break, if you're with a major bank, the penalty to break that mortgage will be too much. You will not be able to get out of it. You are committing to that bank for that term that you choose, because the penalty will exceed what you save. So therefore, you're going to be stuck in that mortgage. So that's one of the reasons.
By a lot, right?
By a lot. We're not talking $500. We're talking
thousands,
$7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 on the average mortgage.
Hey, Frank, before we go to break, you know how you're a big football fan, so I can say this. You know how we always have these delusional friends who believe in these football teams that are just terrible, right? So I got a good buddy of mine, Mike Crete, right now. I think he forgets him on the radio, and he's got like a string of texts going on about how his Packers are winning the Super Bowl this year. And you're a big football fan. I mean, there's not a chance. How delusional is this?
Packers are good, but they just lost to a really below-average defense the other day.
So Crete, I know you're listening. Mike Crete, for anyone who wants to know a delusional guy, pick a new team, buddy. Pick a new team.
Who is going to win?
Well, of course, my Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's been a Chiefs fan for 3 years.
Yeah, ever since they won 2 Super Bowls.
They win a Super Bowl.
Lions, baby.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back to the show. All right, with all these mortgages coming due this year, Frank, $1.2 million, people are obviously going to be paying more for their mortgage. What effect will that have on the economy? There'll be fewer dollars in the economy, correct?
Discretionary spending, I think, goes by the wayside, right? So I think restaurants will be impacted potentially. Retail stores, maybe you don't have to buy more clothes. You don't have to buy. You're gonna wear them out a little bit longer. I think car dealerships could feel the pain of that. Maybe you'll keep your car for another year or two.
So everything points to lower rates.
Everything points to lower rates, because if not, then the economy gets impacted, and job losses are going to continue to mount like they are right now. So, especially if the public stops hiring. I mean, you think about it. Unemployment went up to 6.8%, and we had 45,000 public jobs. If public jobs weren't there and we only had 5,000 jobs, the unemployment rate would be well above 7%. So, we're in a precarious scenario now where we absolutely need lower interest rates to maintain the jobs that we currently have. Because if we don't get the lower interest rates, there's a great chance of more job losses, significant job losses moving forward in 2025.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it just...
Plus, we're getting through Christmas, so now credit card debt is going to go higher.
Credit card debt's going to go up, and how are you going to pay that? I can tell you that in speaking to one of the trustees in the city, one of the bigger trustees in the city, swamped, absolutely swamped with meetings of people that are struggling with their debt. So, I think that we're going to see even more in January, February. Typically, you see that number go up even more in January, February, and March, when the bills start to come in. So
plus, it's an election year coming up.
It's an election year, and then you've got TransUnion.
We get more broken promises.
Yeah.
No,
but you've got TransUnion and
They're not going to
Equifax.
want high rates during an election.
No.
Agreed.
No.
And you got TransUnion and Equifax both reporting that credit card debt is at the highest level it has ever been. Ever. And we're starting to see some of the banks. The one thing that really stood out with the numbers that the banks all came out with is the loan provisions. The amount of bad loan provision money that they set aside, that they think they're going to lose money, that's a signal in itself right there. They're setting all this money aside for losses because they anticipate that the economy is going to be struggling. So that's why, when people say, are you sure that interest rates are going to come down? I can't see how they won't come down. I just don't see it right now.
Well, you mentioned earlier, Steve did, that there's 1.2 million mortgages coming due this year. And coming off high ones or mid ones or whatever.
85% of those.
Yeah, so I question what's going to happen with some of those people. I mean, if people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they do have equity, but if people are living paycheck to paycheck and they do have that equity, but they don't have the funds anymore, unemployment's up and things like that, how many people are going to be selling their properties and maybe getting into the rental trap? And I mean, I hope not. I hope people can afford to keep their properties.
Not enough rentals out there.
Well, and the problem is the rentals are skyrocketing. Prices are skyrocketing. Like we just listed a 3-story townhome for ridiculous money, like high money. But that's the going rate now. Townhomes went from $1,500 a month in suburbia, 3-4 short years ago to now you get something under $2,800. You're getting a great deal. So
which seems crazy.
The rental market's gone through the roof. The prices of the rental market have gone through the roof. We got people now who potentially are going to have to sell their house with all these mortgages coming due. Hopefully they don't have to, but if they do, we might see another influx of properties on the market as well. So
at the very least, they'll be renegotiating, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Right,
Frank's busy. He's
no.
Yeah.
What are you in Punta Cana?
No, he's on TikTok.
I'm not.
He's on TikTok.
TikTok.
I can't even get him to text me back, let alone TikTok. That's too young for him.
Let me see what he's on. OnlyFans.
Yeah.
He's posting.
That's where I make my money.
He's posting his.
That's where I make my money.
He's posting his videos with his capris.
I make all of $5 a month on OnlyFans.
Yeah. Foot fetish, right?
That's what it is. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah. Food fetish.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have brought that up.
Yeah, seriously.
Food fetish. No, the one thing we know is that rates are heading in the right direction. So that's a good sign. Whether you're considering home buying or whether you're a current homeowner, lower interest rates will be good. What scares me is that I've seen some notices come out. I've had some clients send me, because when we do a debt consol, we ask for the credit card statements. It's interesting to see some of the credit card statements indicate that interest rates are going up on credit cards. Effective, they got to give you a 60-day notice. So,
they're going up crazy.
Steve mentioned that a couple weeks ago. He's like, I just got a letter from my credit card saying it's going from 19.99 to 23 or something.
Yeah. So here we are. We're seeing the rates come the other way. And by the way, credit card debt is basically the banks take money that's in savings accounts, and that's what they lend out on credit cards. That's their fluctuating money. Well, I don't know, last time you checked your bank account, what interest you got, but it's nothing, virtually. I mean, you're lucky if you're getting 2% if you have a lot of money in your bank account. And here they are increasing the credit card debt. It just shows you. Now, the increase is not because of that. The increase is because they see the losses piling up.
Yeah.
So how do you make up for the money that they're going to lose by the bankruptcies and the credit proposals that are going to come out?
They're still making money.
Yeah, of course they are, because they're charging 2 points on every transaction. I mean, you think about the money they're making.
Yeah.
But, again, you can never make less than what you make the quarter before. So the only way to do that is by doing what you saw on your credit card statement, which is rates going up 3-4 percentage points, because we need to somehow offset some of the losses we're going to take in 2025. So again, all the signs are pointing towards we're going to see some bad loans, we're going to see some losses, and the only way to overcome that is with lower interest rates. You cannot increase interest rates at this time.
But if you're carrying credit card debt into the new year, you're going to be paying a whole heck of a lot more interest on what you've already bought.
Yes, 100%. That's why I think
clear it up if you can.
It'll be interesting to see what the spending's like over this Christmas season because, again, there's more and more families talking about we're holding back. What we used to spend on Christmas is maybe half this year.
Yeah.
So, again, we're going to see it on the retail sales. We'll see it on the hiring. We're already seeing the fact that in November, not a lot of people got hired for retail, and that is eye-opening in itself.
And that affects the economy, too.
Absolutely.
Rates are going nowhere but down.
Yeah.
Oh, we know that, though. They have nowhere to go but down. They have to go down. I mean, with our economy in trouble, with everything in trouble, we need a good chance here.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, 50 points.
We think so. 85% chance. Like, I'd be shocked if it's only 25 points because I think that would be a disservice to Canadians right now. It just would, based on everything that's happened.
Yeah, it doesn't look rosy.
No, it doesn't.
Birthdays?
Just a couple. My little nephew celebrated his birthday this week, Carmelo Jr. Happy birthday to Carmelo Jr. And a good friend and awesome employee of the Ottawa Senators, Josh Cardillo, celebrating his birthday this coming week. So happy birthday to Joshy.
I just have one. I know I just chirped him recently on the radio, Mike Crete. He owns my go-to electrical company, Power Surge of Ottawa. And I do want to wish him a happy 50th. He just turned the big 50, and I think he's getting a hip replacement or a knee coming up or some of that. So,
well, that's why you were off for 3 months. I mean, you said that you were with your dad.
Right. Happy birthday, old man Crete.
And how much is your Super Bowl bet with him?
Oh, there is no bet because his Packers aren't even going to make it.
Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week. Support local businesses and charities, everyone.